Hi, guys. All right. So this is something very cute. All right, this is something cute. All right, it's corny as fuck. Bear with me, man. Show me some love. Don't be that kind of way. Stories are our past. Our present is the end of stories from our past, right? But the reason I went the extra step is to explain that once we tell a story, we get the choice to kind of like I don't know, just go for an ending, I guess. Set the ending any way we want. End it, actually. End it. How many times have you like felt like the part of something in the past has not really? There's something. There's a woman I follow on Instagram. Super fucking beautiful, man. She has one of those like smiles. I don't know if she's British or Irish. She's a neuroscientist. Super cute, super energetic, and all that stuff. But she literally was describing that why does the mind need stories? And the idea behind it was it helps us think. So that got me kind of like clicky. I don't know if this is the reason why I wrote the notes or because I was kind of like thinking of a story that was going around my head, but I never gave it an ending. So I told it to somebody, right? And the stronger you get, you don't have to tell it to people. You can literally just say it to yourself. You can tell yourself the story. You can look at it and approve the ending and then basically move forward and go, yay, coffee. So, Homer's Iliad, which are like 7 books or 12 books like this, each book is this big, is, is a memorized script, is a memorized script that is very rhythmical. And it was basically for thousands of years, it was passed down from one person to another, like vocally, literally through memory, until people came and got to the written word. Basically, when we kind of like discovered the written word, I say because we've been around for 200,000 years, man. But the recorded history is about maximum 12. I mean, like 12, but there are like 6 years missing from those 12 or something. So we've been around for a while. 97% of our history is kind of like gone. But the Iliad is a series of stories that are very much like rhyme. And they were done this way in order for memorization to be easier and all that cute stuff. And if you look at your actual like patterns in your head, the stories you normally would tell, I don't know how harmonized are how are they when it comes to the harmonizing of your thoughts? Because the more passionate something is, the more fluid it comes out of you, right? The more the more emotion you feel towards something or a setting or a story, the easier it kind of like comes out of you. It's like one of those a balloon full of water. From wherever you poke it, man, water's gonna come out, right? But a bottle full of water, where some places are just gonna come out differently simply because the structure of it's different. I don't know if that makes any fucking sense to you guys. I'm looking at this. So this is an actual size, right? So if I fill it with water, if I fill it up to here, I can fill the same amount with the balloon, but the balloon has like consistent like the pressure around it. So it's always trying to squeeze water out. While with this one, I don't know. So that's what I was thinking. Maybe I'll work on this analogy differently in the future. But to actually, like, so going back to our notes, our mind thinks better in stories because it's able to kind of like correlate in a more harmonious way. And with stories, we allocate emotions to them. So in order for us to kind of like when we feel something, the stories come out instantly. We don't really have to think about them. We don't have to go through the mental process of involving ourselves in them. So stories are our past. Because when you're telling a story, effectively what you're doing is you're kind of going back and like repeating it, right? And then our present is the end of stories from our past. Then ultimately, by pointing at the first thing I actually said, was like, right now is either still part of this story or is where we kind of like the story either ends or we acknowledge that it's no longer there. And again, it's a story, right? Like there's always things happening in your life, but they're not yet a story. They haven't combined with an overall theme. Huh. Maybe that's why people tell you like write your own story or think of your future and how you would want to see it, and then suddenly you kind of like fun stuff. A few things just popped into my head. One of which is I actually have written my story, or maybe I should actually go and check if like some of it's falling in place with the love. It would be fun if that's the case. But declaring right now, I mean, like anytime you tell the story, how can I relate to you with what's happening in my head right now? Because for me, anytime I tell the story, it changes. Doesn't that make sense or not? Anytime you're engaging with this, you're telling a story about something in the past. Well, your enthusiasm either dies towards it. It's because why are we doing this? Or the story itself changes, right? The story itself is like not really told the same way. Because sometimes there's like a bit more sadness to the story. Sometimes there's a bit more perkiness to the story. Sometimes there's a bit more of an engagement to the story. It seems like with every single time we engage, we tell a story, our mind sees it differently and expresses it differently. And I think this difference is our evolution. Because every single time you're going back to the story, you're kind of telling it as the person you are right now. So every stage, every time you told the story, it kind of ended with the person who you are right now. And so our present is the end of stories from our past, because stories from our past really tell us about who we are or who we were. Well, in a way, that's actually a reflection, a direct reflection. But what defines a story, right? Because a lot of people then will start just like remembering shit, but that's not really a story, right? A story kind of has a starting point and an ending point, and like has ups and downs in between, or lefts and rights and shit like this. Maybe I need to establish like so maybe I need to just read about it, right? If I go read how are stories considered, and I'm sure there are multiple ways for us to do stories. But something nice would just look like, anyway I look at it, it's closure. Anyway I look at it is us reaching senses within ourselves to a satisfying end, right? Since most of the stories in our lives are literally for us and by us. And it's not about we don't share. There's like half the shit that I do nobody wants to listen to. So the stories I tell about them is for me. It's like how I learned how to program, it's a lot of learning processes, right? It's kind of like, how I got better at something, how I explored something, how I did something, how I met someone. These are the stories of our lives. Because it seems like every event comes with a story, but some events are kind of continuous, like they're for 2, 3 months. Some events are kind of daily, some events are overall, like the whole year, like the event of me building a startup versus the events of me learning what the startup needs and diving into them. There's a whole lot of these like smaller details that keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And these are all like little stories that go in your head. It's like this and this and this and this and this. And the minute we tell the story, we get to decide the ending. We get to decide if it ended or not. We get to decide if it's worth ending it or worth continuing it. And we get to decide if we like how we're telling the story. Fuck, we even get to decide whether the story is relevant to stick around or not. Because a lot of times, man, there are stories that you have that kind of like are just fun for you. My favorite one is when I was competing with motorcyclists on my bicycle, and I started going on and they all moved. Alright. I don't know how far I took this video in a way that allows you guys to kind of engage with it. But it's a video, and it's a video I did starting in the morning, so that's a video. Get excited, guys. Get excited. Get excited. Bye.